content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody, man? I'm GG, man. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. And, before I get things started, man, I just want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel, man. I haven't done this in quite a bit of time, so it's in order that I do it. So let me do it. Big up to Marvin Battle Jr., Mark Holt, Mackenzie Mayweather, Blacksword 404, Pete Rock 496, J. Cleveland Green, Electrician 480, Marvin Evans, Rogish Son, Lee Ways, Kwaku Asasi, Javon Thompson, John J., The IDP Expressions, Darnell Smith, Afro Troop TV, Adam, Tahuti, BGS Ibmore, Ignatz Mouse, Show Me, Kyle J. Sewer, Brian Peaks, Papa Didas, Roderick Jackson, Scott Haywood, Black Uhuru Strikes, Dr. Thunder, Dr. Tree 33, Rais Muajid, Honeycut, Leroy, The Thinker, Broken Blade, Life of Commerce, Super Tech, Kisses from Afar, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Apex Prowler, Karan S, Anthony Davis, Artisan MC, Damon Brown, Donnell 360, Herbert Lewis, Seven Coast Dojo, Pulpit 28, Charles Rogers, B. Hillfire, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean 955, Charles Gilmore, Patricia Colley, 7Q Pitt, Greg, Barry Little, Alan Wiley, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Nelso, Kareen Not Karen, Doc LaRock, J. Charles The Face, Mark Swift, Odd Collar, Donna Watts, HipHop.catv, The Way, Kashif Caldwell, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, I'm Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DHC Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Aaron Infinite, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalan Chakala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, W. Para 1, and I can't forget my brother in heaven, Force Windu. And for some reason, I'm having an issue pulling up my Patreon page. I think I forgot the password or something, but shout out to y'all, to all of the people on the Patreon side, man. Appreciate your help and your support. But today what I'd like to do, and let me give a shout out to all the people in the chat, man. Fabrication, None Lumite 1, BGS Ibmore, Joe Average Brother. I mean, there's so many people out there, man. Micah the Comedian, Charles Faulkner, woo to you, brother. Kay Williams, The Way, Kyle Harrison, Kwaku Asasi, Uncle Fire, Ricky Manor, and so on and so forth, and Brotherly Love 215. Shout out to y'all, man. Thank you for joining me, and I'm going straight to the main scene, man. I'm going to skip, the membership, that membership joint. But before I begin, I want to say, a couple of, preliminary remarks. It's kind of like a rant, but it's not really a rant, but it's a little bit like a rant. So I've been kind of going back and forth with this guy in my comment section. And, look, I don't mean, ill will, brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to give you the facts. And sometimes, a lot of people think that, I'm a specific kind of thinker because, I'm doing a show and I talk shit a lot. But I mean, ultimately, all I'm trying to do is to get you to think about, the political course that black people have traversed in its myriad forms. Whether it be liberalism, conservatism, whether it be black nationalism, integrationalism, post-racialism, whatever the case may be, I'm just trying to give you an account. And sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right, but I would like to think that more often than not, I'm right in my assessment, at least about what the objective facts of politics are or have been in the black community. And recently, I put a video out there that covered the subject matter of the Black National Convention in Gary, Indiana in 1972. And I've been kind of going back and forth with this brother, man, about, what the political aspirations and the ideals were of the people who attended, that convention. And the brother thinks that, that the people at that convention really weren't black nationalists. And I'm arguing, yes, indeed, they were. And I think I've demonstrated that pretty conclusively with another video I've done. But beyond that, the next step is that, like the people at the convention, particularly Jesse Jackson, was leaving out hordes of black people from the South and only attending to the needs, the desires, the wants, and so on and so forth, or the predicament of the people in the inner city. And, basically that's false, man. It's not accurate as an assessment of the goals and the people who were supposed to be embodying black nationalism at that convention, man. And the proof of it can be demonstrated just by me showing it to you. So let me show it to you, man. And it might take me a second to get here. But around the 20-minute mark of the video that I put out there, Jesse Jackson makes it pretty clear. And I'm going to it right now. He makes it pretty clear who the people in the franchise are supposed to be. It's just without a shadow of a doubt. So I'm going into about the 19 minute and 30 second mark. And it might, here's where we're going to start. And then I'm going back to what I want to say.
United States of America, built by the dehumanizing institution of slavery, built on the tortured muscles of our forebears, the African diaspora has trumpeted its summons to all of the tribes with a question put forth by Brother Baraka, whose answer alone legitimatizes our collective existence. Brothers and sisters, what time is it? It's nation time. It's nation time for all of the tribes from Boston to Birmingham.
What did he say? From Boston to Birmingham. Now, Boston is considered northern. Birmingham is considered the South, right? It's nation time. It's nation time for who?
Mississippi to Minnesota.
Mississippi to Minnesota.
San Diego to Seattle and Galveston to Gary.
Galveston, Texas to Gary, Indiana.
What time is it? For 13 black congressmen.
And I don't have to go any further. But you can't take one comment that this man made about the suburbs and the inner city and use it to say or to articulate the idea that at that time that this man, now you can talk about his politics now and critique him. Okay, fine. I'm cool with that. Because I think he departed from black nationalism. He divested from it, okay, and wanted to distance himself to some degree from it and became this integrationist, assimilationist, which I don't think like Clarence Thomas would ever consent to. I don't think that that's part of Clarence Thomas's black nationalist way of thinking, his theorizing about black politics. But that's my opinion about black nationalism in reference to Clarence Thomas. And there are reasons why we'll go into that, because I'm going to read excerpts from a paper, a scholarly paper written by a law professor who used to be a law clerk to Clarence Thomas. So he knew him intimately. We can actually talk to somebody who knows the intricacies of Clarence Thomas's thought and what actually makes him tick politically. But at the end of the day, come on, bruh. Like, this is not just a northern, midwestern, western conference, bruh, or like a convention. It's not, bruh. It's not. And moreover, like I said before, look, there are a lot of people in the black, manosphere or even in the black community writ large who, for the most part, are conservative. And look, I don't even lament your conservatism. In many respects and in many aspects, I'm conservative myself. If you look at the videos I've done, I've been critiquing the left primarily, especially related to the kind of paternalism that's going on in the Democratic Party and with leftist politics in general. And the whole notion of diversity and inclusion about it, it just seems, absolutely artificial and superficial to me. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in diversity and inclusion. I just don't. I think it's a way to exclude us. They get to handpick who they consider to be diverse enough to be in the in crowd. I don't like that. And it's elite. And I don't like it. Okay? So I'm just putting that out there. But we can't make the factual error of basically asserting that all of these people at this convention, and the people in the civil rights movement were all liberal up north commies, bruh. That's just erroneous, man. And let me explain to you why. Who were the members of the Black Panther Party, which was a communist Black nationalist organization? And I am going to make the case that Black nationalism has many variants. And it comes in many different forms. But to argue, that there's only one kind of Black nationalism is to actually not know the intricacies of Black nationalism. Now, we can argue about the relative merits of whatever position, you subscribe to, or, the viewpoints you eschew, whatever the case may be. But I mean, the fact of the matter is the Black Panther Party was a Black nationalist organization that was communist. But where did the people come from who were the founding members of the organization? Man, all you got to do, Bobby Seale. The dude is from Liberty, Texas, bruh. That's the South, bruh. Come on now. The dude is from Liberty, Texas. Huey P. Newton, man, is from Monroe, Louisiana, bruh. The dude is from the South, man. Eldridge Cleaver is from Wabaseka, Arkansas, dog. Jesse Jackson is from Greenville, South Carolina. Ella Baker, one of the founding members of SNCC, is from Norfolk, Virginia, bruh. Martin Luther King Jr. is from Atlanta, Georgia, bruh. Medgar Evers is from Decatur, Mississippi, bruh. Rosa Parks, Tuskegee, Alabama, bruh. You talking about people from the South. People from the South. So how are these people being classified as liberal inner city leftist commies from the North and the Midwest when they're from the fucking South, man? The people who founded these organizations that many of y'all regard as commie northern liberal organizations like the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the first letter is Southern, bruh. It's the Southern Christian Leadership Council. I mean, and the people in the film, Walter Fauntleroy is from Washington, D.C., which, if you didn't know, technically, it is the South, man. Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's widow, man. Pinehurst, Georgia, bruh. Coretta Scott King, Alabama, bruh. Sidney Poitier, Florida, bruh. Isaac Hayes is from Tennessee, bruh. These people are from the South. So how could they be involved in the convention, leaving out the members of the South when the vast majority of the participants and the people who orchestrated the event are from the South, bruh? Explain it. These people are from the South, bruh. They are from the South. So this new divide between, this is, to be perfectly honest, this whole separation is emblematic of the failure of Black nationalism in general, in my viewpoint. This whole, this geographical infighting amongst Black folks about who's from where and what value system this group has as opposed to that value, the other group has, and how one group of people are more pure than the other is the very thing that they were trying to overcome. And the vast majority of these people were from the South, bruh. That's all I'm trying to articulate here. That's it. So he's not excluding the South. The man is from the South. He's from South Carolina. How could he exclude himself? That's the issue. Why would he exclude himself? And he just said, from Mississippi to Minnesota. I'm just saying, bruh. So we gotta get out of that way of thinking, man. Because the people who founded these organizations that you regard as elitist and liberal and northern were created by Southerners, man. Those are the facts, bro. Now, if you don't like it, I'm sorry, man. You got to go back in history and you got to deal with the people that you basically have lionized. It's almost romanticized. And look, the North has its issues and the South has its issues as well. Because it's some downtrodden, low down, dirty, ghetto, hood-like Negroes in the South just like it is in the North, bruh. Look, my grandmother is from Texas, my mother from Texas, my uncle from Texas. I got family members all throughout Texas, bruh. They from Port Arthur, Texas. And who was from Texas talking about they had a pocket full of stones in the early 90s, bruh? Screaming they got a pocket full of stones, bruh. A group from Texas. So that's my rant, man. I'm not going any more into it. All I'm trying to say is let's be accurate and factual, bruh. Let's do that. And you could argue about like politics or whatever the case may be, fine. But let's be accurate when we do that. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for. But on to the main subject at hand, man. Basically I came here to talk about Clarence Thomas and his black nationalism. A lot of y'all would be inclined to call, Clarence Thomas a coon and so on and so forth. But let me say this. Conservatism is congruent with black nationalism. In fact, it might even be more congruent with black nationalism than liberalism is. Those are the facts, bruh. One can argue if you're gonna be a black nationalism has more in common with black conservatism than it does with black liberalism. Those are the facts, bruh. Those are the facts, man. It just is what it is. And at the heart, at the core, I am a black nationalist. It just is what it is. But this is the truth, man. It is what it is. Self-help, self-reliance, self-determination is not waiting on white people to help you out. Do I think black people deserve reparations? Yes, I do. Do I think we're ever going to get it? Absolutely, positively not. No, absolutely not. And so if they're not going to give it to us, they're not going to provide it for us, then what is it that we have to do? You got to do for yourself. Or you got to at least make an attempt to do better, to do something. You have to. And in relation to liberalism, let me just say this. Liberalism has failed black men miserably. Liberalism has done nothing, to be quite honest, nothing significant or substantive for black men for the past 40, 50 years. Just absolutely nothing. What has it done for us? What? Affirmative action went to white women, man. And the blacks that enjoyed it, we become tokens, man. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. Now, look, I understand the tenets of liberalism, classical and, American political liberalism as it is, proliferated in popular media, like magazine news shows, like MSNBC or, C-SPAN or, even how it's, caricaturized by Fox News and the like. I think the left is going weird as fuck. I'm just being honest. I think the left is going so far left that like conservatism is almost a safe haven for like common sense to some degree, but I don't want to even really actually go there all the way through and through. All I'm going to say is this. Yes, Clarence Thomas is a black nationalist. And let's look at the evidence that demonstrates that he is from somebody who actually knew him, who served as a law clerk for him. Okay? So we can get that straight. Because a lot of people would like to call him a coon. I don't think that he is. Now, do I agree with everything that Clarence Thomas thinks about or all of his theorization? No, not really. But I don't agree with all of it. I disagree with all of it. I definitely don't. So anyway, the person who wrote this article, his name is Stephen F. Smith. Okay, and the title, and it was written in 2009, so it's relatively recent in relation to academic, contemporarity or whatever. I can't even draw up the word now. But in terms of being, recent in the academy, it's relatively recent. Okay, and the title of it is Clarence X, the Black Nationalist behind Justice Thomas's Constitutionalism. Okay? And again, this person who wrote the article is a professor of law at the University of Notre Dame, and ultimately he served as a law clerk to Justice Thomas during the 1993 term. Okay? So let me read through this. And it says, and I've read it, and I agree with, most of what's being said here, okay? Justice Clarence Thomas has been the nation's highest court, on the nation's highest court for about 20 years, almost, and this was in 2009, okay? When he arrived at the Supreme Court, some dismissed him as an intellectual lightweight, someone who simply parroted the views of his jurisprudential master, Antonin Scalia. Court watchers, intelligent and fair-minded ones anyway, finally recognized this attack as the unfair caricature that it is. Even scholars who disagree with Justice Thomas now admit that on important issues ranging from the proper scope of congressional power under the Commerce Clause to the constitutionality of affirmative action, Justice Thomas has written thought-provoking, carefully reasoned opinions. Okay? The opinions of Justice Thomas reflect the jurisprudence that is uniquely his own. His well-known commitment to textualism and originalism combines with with a weak commitment to stare decisis on constitutional questions. This often puts Thomas at odds with Justice Scalia and other justices who are far more willing to defer to precedents with which they disagree. The most distinctive aspect of Thomas's jurisprudence, however, involves cases of particular concern to Black Americans. In these cases, his originalism and textualism are powerfully supplemented by another ism, namely Black nationalism. Throughout his tenure, Justice Thomas has repeatedly explored the implications of controversial rulings for Black Americans. This might seem obvious in cases involving issues that are fundamentally about race, such as the constitutionality of affirmative action or race-based jury strikes. In fact, however, it is not so obvious. After all, other justices who vote with him on matters involving race typically eschew claims that their positions advance the interest of Blacks. Justice Thomas, by contrast, frequently, if not invariably, seeks to demonstrate that his conservative positions on matters of race are beneficial for Black Americans, as well as legally required. Even in cases that are not, strictly speaking, about race, an example is whether allowing school vouchers to be used at religious schools violates the separation of church and state. He is quick to point out the potential impact on Blacks where he perceives it. Thus, it is false to say, as many of Thomas's critics in the black community, or as many of the critics in the black community do, that Justice Thomas thinks white and has forgotten that he's black. To anyone who cares to listen, Justice Thomas's opinions thunder with the strong black nationalist voice typically associated with one of Thomas's personal heroes, Malcolm X. Now, how can somebody think white and have a personal hero who is Malcolm X? How? Like Malcolm X, Justice Thomas categorically rejects the idea that white racism remains an insurmountable obstacle to meaningful progress in Black America. Although racism unquestionably exists, enormous progress has been made in American race relations, progress that was dramatically confirmed last year by the election of Barack Obama as the nation's first black president. Now, I don't know if I agree with all that, though. This is where I might have a little disagreement about Smith. Because I think that, like Obama was a token. And although I don't believe racism is insurmountable either, I don't think these people going to rule forever. Like white supremacy is like a permanent and indelible feature of reality. I don't believe that. Do I believe that these people got their foot on our necks right now? Quite certainly I do. Yes. I believe they got a stronghold on us right now. They got us in a chokehold right now. But the idea that, this almost seems integrationist to me, which I don't think, personally, Clarence Thomas would be all for altogether. Now, yeah, he's married to a white woman. Okay, whatever. So are many other black men who are black nationalists. Like Harry Belafonte was married to a white woman. So, it is what it is. But anyway, Frederick Douglass was married to a white woman. All depends on how you want to look at it, bro. But anyway, he says, in this climate, with legal protections against discrimination finally enshrined into law after generations of struggle and suffering, blacks need not look to race-based remedies or preferential treatment from society in order to succeed. They need only look within, to the genius, creativity, and capacity for hard work that resides in the heart and mind of every black person. So, if we care to know who the unknown Justice Thomas is, the answer is as provocative as it is obvious from his opinions. He is, quite simply, Clarence X, a jurist who is not only a constitutionalist, but a black nationalist as well. Now, the reason I'm sharing this there are many articles on the internet that you could look up. You could look up in the New York Times. They have articles about black nationalism and Clarence Thomas. The Vox has one. The Boston Review, there's another there, okay? Then they all explore and discuss and talk about Clarence Thomas and his, connection to black nationalism. But of course, a lot of us just like to only think in a specific kind of way, a unidimensional way. But we're going to explore a little more tonight. But I ain't going to be here all night. I'm going to only be here for about an hour and 30 minutes at the most. All right. But I do want to get through this, at least this first section and the one, maybe half of the one after it. And they're not long sections, okay? Anyway, given the negative connotations associated with some understandings of black nationalism, it is important to be precise about what exactly is and is not intended by the phrase here. And that's what I've been trying to do, okay? What does black nationalism actually mean, okay? In the classical sense of the term, black nationalism rests on the intractable racism of whites because they believed whites will always be hostile to the interest of blacks. Marcus Garvey and other classical black nationalists believed that blacks could survive and prosper only by separating themselves from white society and forming their own nations. Nations of black people, by black people, and for black people. Today, few American blacks, least of all Justice Thomas, embrace black nationalism in this classical sense. And there are a lot of people who like to pigeonhole black nationalism into that kind of category. But as people who study this, man, that's not the only way to interpret black nationalism. Anyway, the author Stephen F. Smith goes on to say, in recent decades, black nationalism has acquired a broader alternative meaning. Instead of preaching nationhood or physical separation of the races, modern black nationalists recognize that self-help and self-determination are potent means through which black communities can be empowered within white-dominated societies. That's what it is. It's about self-determination. It's about self-realization. It's about autonomy and self-governance. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. So modern black nationalists contend that even in the face of white racism, blacks can succeed by getting a good education, avoid using drugs and shit like that, which I have my issues with this whole notion of drugs and that being the reason why black people, are not where they are. I just don't believe that that's exactly the case. Okay? Because look, man, the biggest drug users in this country are white folks. They use more and they deal more drugs than any other demographic. All right? So, this whole be real super clean and pristine kind of argument, I don't know if I really actually agree with it. But you should avoid self-defeating behavior as much as you possibly can. I mean, criminalism is not to be applauded. It's to be derided and looked down upon. And justice and, being upright is to be looked up to. It just is. All right? So at any rate, creating stable family structures, which today, any family is stable to these people nowadays. The left has basically categorized a stable family as one in which a black man is not present. Sorry. That's where we are now. And creating economic opportunities for themselves and other blacks. In short, by self-consciously investing in themselves and their own communities. Malcolm X at various times advanced both conceptions of black nationalism. Towards the end of his association with the Nation of Islam and his controversial founder, Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X gave a fiery speech referring to America as the last stronghold of white supremacy, a society destined to be engulfed by the black flames of the Black Revolution. The only permanent solution to America's race problem, Malcolm X insisted, is the complete separation of these 22 million ex-slaves from our white slave master, and the return of these ex-slaves to our own land where we can then live in peace and security among our people. This Malcolm frequently had harsh words for traditional civil rights leaders. In his Chickens Come Home to Roost speech, for example, he referred to them as modern Negro magicians who seek to make people think that integration into this doomed white society will soon solve our problem. Malcolm X went on to make his point even more explicit. Potentially, the American Negro is nothing but a football, and the white liberals control this mentally dead ball through tricks of tokenism. I agree. False promises of integration and civil rights. In this profitable game of deceiving and exploiting the politics of the American Negro, those white liberals have the willing cooperation of the Negro civil rights leaders. These leaders sell out our people for just a few crumbs of token recognition and token gains. These leaders are satisfied with token victories and token progress because they themselves are nothing but token leaders. Now, look, at the end of the day, man, I've said this on many occasions, but people only seem to want to hear what they want to hear. I critique the left and the right because, I would like to consider myself to be an independent. I think how I want to think. Well, Richard Dixon, man, look, I'm looking at your comment here, man. And thank you for the people who, let me take a time out real quick, man. I want to give a shout out to Kareem Austin. Thank you, brother, for the donation. Appreciate that. Thank you, Show Me, for your donation. Appreciate that. And yeah, look, all I'm trying to do is just say this. Different people have different interpretations of what black nationalism is, but it's not in and of itself basically about going to get your own unique plot of land or having your own geographical territory to govern over independently of white folks. It can mean a multiplicity of things. But I think that at the core of black nationalism, especially for the people, post-civil rights era, the vast majority of black people is to be strategic politically and to work for the collective interest of black folks. I mean, even at the convention, they were like, okay, we're not going to be towing any unique party line. We're not going to toe the Democratic or the Conservative Party line. But eventually what ended up happening was black people went to the integration. They went into the integration loop and they thought things would be better. And here we are now. Things aren't much better. They're not that much better. I mean, it's just, these are the facts. So anyway, at other points, particularly after he broke with the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X articulated a distinctly less hostile version of black nationalism. For example, in '64, after his life-changing pilgrimage to Mecca, he disclaimed sweeping indictments of one race, declaring that I am not a racist and that I wish nothing but freedom, justice, and equality, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for all people. However, Malcolm X remained convinced that self-reliance was the only path to life, liberty, and happiness for blacks, as he explains in his famous memoirs. The American black man should be focusing his every effort toward building his own businesses and decent homes for himself, as other ethnic groups have done. Let the black people, wherever possible, however possible, patronize their own kind, hire their own kind, and start in those ways to build up the black race's ability to do for itself. That's the only way the American black man is ever going to get respect. Now, as far as I'm seeing it, man, this is nothing really different than somebody like Claude Anderson is saying. Or a whole bunch of people, have said, and even some black conservatives say, stop waiting on white people to save us. What can we do now for ourselves? Now, I take a little bit of issue with it, though, only insofar as, look, you want to talk about how white people got their wealth? They got it from the government, man, or either they got it through unscrupulous practices, man, primarily in this nation, the university system, the government, the wealth, the opulence of Europe, whether it be France, whether it be England, all that shit came from slavery, dog. All that money, man, the vast majority of old wealth. Now, I'm not talking about new startup companies and tech and all that, because it's some brand new billionaires and all that. But it's still some old money and old institutions that are bankrolled by old money, that are connected to old oppression of black folks. So, I mean, why you see so many, I'm just saying, let's be factual about it. Now, do I think black people should be waiting on white people to do anything for them? I don't think so, because we'll be holding our breath. These people are not just going to give us the same things they gave each other. You ain't part of their tribe like that. Just is what it is. You ain't part of their clique like that. Just is what it is. Anyway, the implications of this provocative passage and others like it were not lost on a younger Clarence Thomas, looking for footing during the turbulence of the Reagan administration's battles on civil rights. In Malcolm X, Thomas had discovered that black progress was not something to be despaired. of in America or conferred by white society in its beneficence. Instead, the proper lesson to be drawn from Malcolm X was that the black community itself has the key to its own progress. By becoming self-reliant and self-sufficient, blacks can succeed on their own regardless of how whites might feel about them. As Thomas would later explain in his memoirs, I never went along with the militant separatism of the black Muslims, but I admired their determination to do for self, brother, as well as their discipline and dignity. To be truly free and participate fully in American life, poor blacks had to have the tools to do for themselves. Through discoveries such as these, Clarence Thomas was well on his way to becoming Clarence X. Okay? So anyway, it did not take long for Justice Thomas's black nationalism to appear in the pages of the United States reports. From the very beginning, he staked out a unique position on the Supreme Court. His was more than just another conservative vote, more than a conservative vote cast by a justice who happened to be black. His was a black conservative vote in the sense that his conservatism was closely linked, perhaps even an outgrowth of his blackness. Contrary to the usual accusation that Thomas is uninterested in race, if not hostile to the interest of blacks, Thomas's record reveals a justice who, like Malcolm X before him, approaches racial issues from a black nationalist premise and is willing to think far more broadly about issues of racial justice than many in the civil rights community would prefer. The black nationalism of Justice Thomas of Clarence X would influence his judicial record in interesting ways. Sometimes it would lead him closer to positions favored by traditional civil rights groups than other conservative justices. Other times, it would push him to the far right of the court, farther than even some of his most conservative colleagues would go. Regardless of where Thomas ended up in particular cases, it is clear that Thomas's brand of juridical conservatism, infused as it is with black nationalism, differs considerably from that of even his ideologically closest white colleagues. So look, I'm not going to go all deep off into this. All I'm trying to do is to demonstrate to you that Clarence Thomas is a black nationalist and that black nationalism is not incompatible with or mutually exclusive with black nationalism. It's not. Now, one of the things that, like going off the record here, man, one of the things, and any of y'all can come in, if you disagree, feel free to step up. I don't care if you're, whatever political orientation you have, feel free to come in if you want to and to, give an assessment about what it is that I've said thus far. But, ultimately, one of the things that Clarence Thomas laments is the dissolution of the institutions that existed during segregation that we let go in favor of integration and assimilation. We had our own banks. We had our own schools. We had our own movie theaters. We had a lot of our own institutions. And for the most part, we gave them up. And even in the context of Jesse Jackson speaking at the Black Nationalist Convention, he says, damn, we act like the white man's ice is colder, his grass is greener. Like everything he's doing is the thing to do. Or everything he has access to his institutions is best for us. Yeah, Recknovator says if he was a real black nationalist, he would not have been appointed. It could be true. Because they do a deep dive into your personal background. But who knows, man? That's speculation, We do know that he was a Black Panther. We do know that. Matt Steve says Jesse Jackson is race baiting. I mean, bruh, you got to think about this, man. Back in the 70s, bruh, we're talking about black nationalism being a political means for black people to engage in self-determinism, man, and self-reliance, and to chart a political trajectory. I mean, to call that race baiting, to me, seems a little bit naive. I'm just sorry. And it seems pessimistic to me. Thank you, brotherly love. A group of people who were a decade or less removed from Jim Crow. How could they be race baiting? And ultimately, I mean, Jesse Jackson became an integrationist. I mean, he became an assimilationist, integrationist. He was a black nationalist. Then he changed his tune. What did Jesse Jackson do? Come on, bro. Like, look, all you gotta do is look up what Jesse. Look, all you gotta do is look it up, bro. The man was there with Malcolm. I mean, not Malcolm, but Martin Luther King Jr. Dog. Whether you agree with civil rights or not, I mean, segregation was dehumanizing and demoralizing. Those are the facts. I mean, I'm not trying to be ignorant by saying that either. Like, what has he done? Like, I mean, that's like saying, like, what did Martin Luther King Jr. do? I mean, and do I think he stepped in the wrong direction to some degree? Perhaps, maybe. Yeah, but I mean, for crying out loud, man, we can't just forget about everything that the guy did. Now, do we need to step beyond him? Yeah, I can say that. Yeah, perhaps. But I mean, for crying out loud, you can't totally break the tether to the old, right? I mean, there's no way to actually do it to begin with. But I mean, for crying out loud, we might want to distance ourselves to some degree from some of his policies. But I mean, you got to give him credit for some of the things that he did early on. You know what I'm saying? T Fitness, what's going on, brother? How are you?
How are you? Can you hear me, brother?
Hold on, man. I cannot hear you. So let me adjust my speak. Can you speak now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, a couple of things I just wanted to make a point of. Everything that you have been saying so far has been on the money. A lot of one of the things that I always come to the defense of when it comes to the ADOS movement, Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, although I'm a do-for-selfer by nature and by my birthright, I feel what they are doing is a do-for-self thing by trying to enter into the field of politics on a very intellectual level where they're not using histrionics and meretricious arguments, but they're going for data and they're putting forth an effort. I like that. I like what they've been doing in terms of making people aware and extending this argument. And I do agree with you. I don't think it's in the nature of a tribal people to help the other tribe. The second point I like to make consistently is when a lot of people claim to have loved Malcolm X, they always like to have distanced him from where that message came from. This do for self, this build your own businesses, and start your own schools came specifically from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All of those words were his words. So when the man writing the article, who was the law clerk for Clarence Thomas, starts to use a deceased Malcolm X as an exemplar and ignores a living Louis Farrakhan, shows me that oftentimes people try to use iconography to talk about what was in the past instead of promoting what actually is happening now or trying to happen now. So it makes everybody who would even have an inkling of becoming a do-for-self person getting together and extolling the vision and the virtues of building and saying, well, that's dead now because Malcolm X is dead. Or every single quote that you read that man had given is everything that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has ever said in any interview, but not as eloquently because he only had a fourth grade education. Now, I love all of these men equally, not as much Clarence Thomas, but I do agree with a lot of what, Clarence Thomas, your assessment on Clarence Thomas and Black nationalism. But I love all of these men equally. But I have to say that I think this always gets me when I hear people trying to separate Malcolm X from the source, because his source of information is still alive and well in terms of the group the group who has been trying to build, been trying to go to the South and buy land, been trying to get back to building businesses. But everyone wants to pretend like it doesn't exist, so we claim there is no solution. I'm not saying they're the only solution, but they exist. And if the majority of us keep running away from it and putting on Malcolm X T-shirts and pretending like the movement is dead, then we're never going to do anything about it. And that's the only thing that particularly bothers me about some things I hear when I hear these statements. I hope I was clear.
I think you were very clear, man. Some pretty good points, man. There are people actually still engaged in the practice of black nationalism who haven't left it behind. And he could have made a reference to, the contemporary struggle, as opposed to just going back in time and then using this icon in order to, make a rhetorical move. I understand that. I get that.
You guys, just to let you know, I've written this today. I put you, BGS, Dr. Tia San Johnson, and Dr. Tommy Curry as the missing piece of the puzzle. What you men are doing right now, and I say Yvette and Antonio Moore, even if you're all not on the same page, what you men have done so far has moved us or moving the way we think in such a strong direction. If I feel like we have a better hope for the future, it is literally coming out of this space right now.
Well, look, all I can say is, bro, all I can do is give you information that I know from the perspective in which I have to give it. There's going to be context in everything everyone says. There's going to be some tinge or, some hint of bias in everything that everybody says. I'm not a savior. All I'm doing is giving you information. I'm a black man going through the grid just like all of y'all. Now, some of y'all got different viewpoints and ideals. I feel like you have the freedom, or should have the freedom, to openly discuss it. I don't like when we get hostile with each other. But that's just bound to happen though. Men got testosterone and shit, and they want to, beat their chest and thump it, and show that, I ain't no bitch ass dude or whatever. So it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I pull back, sometimes I lean in. But at the end of the day, we had an opportunity in 72, man, to form a voting block for real. And to actually, move in such a way that we weren't being used like a political football. So but I do think Malcolm X is correct when he does say we're being used by the Democratic Party. And we have nothing to show for it. Like other groups are able to get what they want, but only insofar as the service of interest convergence is met. Meaning, look, right now we have a situation in which diversity and inclusion is the buzzword of the left. It's about diversity and inclusion. But you're not included, dog. Dog, it's about every group except for the core group who's going through the horrors in this country predominantly. And then they get to basically say, okay, well, you really don't get to buy in because you have more in common with either savages or with trying to establish the patriarchal order, which is regressive.
I can tell you another thing that has come to me recently in regards to some of the things that we as black men missed the boat on, and it does not include me, but a lot of brothers, when they did benefit from post-Jim Crow affirmative action, a lot of those brothers did not bring in other black men to help build into these corporate offices and what have you. They didn't build them from the bottom up. I see a lot of black women bringing in a lot of black women into corporate offices. I know this for a fact because I keep talking to my white clients who have black human resource women, and I keep getting the same thing. They are bringing in more black women. As men, back in the day, I felt like a lot of us were gatekeepers to keep black men out, to be the only token, to be the only one. So I think that there was a problem in our past that we didn't talk about, and that's in a fully integrated society. But when we talk about, a separated society, I would love for you to be able to go back and watch Farrakhan's speech from 1974 in Randall's Island and in 1985 in California, where he talked about power now and forever. There's some salient points in both of those speeches, which are some of the things that we consistently talk about, those themes that we consistently talk about to this day. But, that was one of the things that I had to bring into effect is, although the gynocracy, as we call it here, has been given some gimmies and grabums, they are using it to let their acolytes in. And we did have brothers who were keeping brothers out. And to this day, I've spoken to black men who claim that they couldn't find qualified black men to do jobs like marketing, which is stupid.
Yeah. Look, let me just say this, bro. You know how the game goes, man. Like sometimes we got to get to the rote, visceral nature of the system as it exists, right? So let's say, for example, you run a business, right? If there was something called Blackistan, right?
Yes.
And black folks had slavery and shit, right? And it was over with. We fought a war amongst each other in order to end it or whatever the case may be. And, we had arguments and fights over it. And, the dust kind of settled and things are left as they were. I mean, we didn't really contend with, helping white people reintegrate into society, but we doing what little we can, like in a piecemeal fashion, whatever. Okay. But just think about it like this. So you're going to interpolate some people in order to save face in the world community. You're going to have white dudes come into your business or you're going to get some white women there? I'm just keeping it, I ain't trying to be ignorant, but I mean, if you going to hire some people, it might sound ignorant by me saying that.
Yeah, no, you're right. But
look, bro, I'm just saying, are you going to bring some white dudes in or you going to bring some white women in so you can see some nice white breasts or something? I mean, it might be ignorant for me to say that.
That is exactly the point that I didn't want to say. I feel like a lot of brothers from the 80s and 70s brought in a lot of not just white women, black women, Spanish women, all kinds of women, literally so they could be the big dog, the alpha male, and have access to women, that they were not thinking that they were going to be replaced and that their sons and grandsons would never be afforded the same opportunity that they ever had again because they failed to build within. So yes, I didn't want to say that. Thank God you said it.
but I mean,
yeah, not for real.
Some brothers help each other. Some brothers help each other in network. I mean, it's not totally, absent out there. But I mean, we get enthralled by, being the head Negro in charge. And then sometimes it is the case that sometimes, we're given opportunities and we fumble them. It happens.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? I mean,
I know,
it happens. And so, but white people fumble opportunities as well.
And they get opportunity after opportunity. They get mentorship. They get brought through a system. This is what I'm saying. They have developed a system of developing each other. If you do not bring in allies, you will get replaced by the next group. So not to blame all of the problems on us, but part of it was faulty thinking. And plus, the brothers couldn't see into the future. They would have never known that this was going to be the case. So I can also say that we have the benefit of looking back and saying what we did wrong and what we never need to do wrong again.
Well, let me put it this way. I am in favor of a conservative black nationalist who holds the position that we're men. And as men, we don't have to wait on a white daddy in order to allow us to, take from the earth what it is we're capable of garnering from it ourselves. I mean, as a political mind state or orientation, like, okay, I don't need a paternalistic white figure in order to ensure that I'm going to be able to eat. Okay.
That's
However,
why I'm asking you to watch that power speech from 1985 of Minister Farrakhan. That is the 100% consistent theme in that particular speech for 2 hours. And in 1974, in terms of, not, in terms of unity, but go back in terms of business. If you watch those two speeches, everything that we talk about here, and it always obviously bends along the lines of conservatism because they are a religious organization, obviously.
true indeed.
They're very conservative. Yeah.
But the only issue I have, with this kind of conversation though, is the idea that like all of the things that white folks got was all built upon their own agency and like their moral do-goodism and like their embodiment of like hard work. Yeah. Like everything that they got, like everything that they've gotten is not predicated upon like this very idea that like they're morally superior because they have the right kind of ethic. Like in terms of labor, or getting ready to go get it, like getting up, the mentality if we use the colloquialism now, like go, I'm getting the bag, I'm a hustler, like I'm going to get it. Like black men have always been hustlers, bro.
I know. My first stepfather was a white Italian man who worked for a major corporation inside of New York City. He was a manager. All of his friends were white. He used to do cocaine on the weekends. I used to hear him call in on Monday and tell his manager, F you, I ain't coming in this morning. I got a headache from blah, blah, blah. But he was a fastidious man, hard worker. But he screwed up from time to time. But he was able to retire from said company with a $2 million pension. You hear me? I have been myself a worker who had been shown up 10 minutes late to work after being pulled over by the police, and you would think that I walked into a place with cocaine on my nose. The way they pretend like my action was so egregious and that the other groups do a certain thing. I grew up a certain way, brother. I've seen behind the curtain. I know what you're talking about firsthand. I've seen them, how they were from their youth to the end, and how many conservative talking points they have. This is not news to me. So I know this. I know it. It's in my blood.
Hey, look, I try to tell people all the time, like, look, it's easy to scapegoat the drug addicts or, or like the so-called criminals, and then to say, okay, well, that's the reason why, niggas ain't spit. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to go there, but when you begin to confront, like macroeconomic trends and like institutions and various practices within the context of the U.S., then it becomes more difficult, to make the argument that it's our lack of, go get it, a John Henryism. That's the only factor. Like, look, at the end of the day, though, this is what I'll say. What alternative do we have, though, other than to have like the idea that we ought to be seeking to remedy our situation for ourselves? Because we know they're not going to do anything. Like, what's the alternative?
We're on the same team, brother. This is what I always say. When I bang that unity, I used to bang unity inside of a lot of the comments. When I bang that unity, I'm always thinking about my stepfather and his homeboys that worked above him and how they protected each other inside of a job. Again, a man without a college education to end up with 7 figures in retirement. That was because they were unified. They would
I want to speak to something real quick. And
go,
this is just a question I'm putting out there, right? It's just a question, man.
bang it out.
All right, so this brother said, truth teller says, black nationalist, ask him about his white wife, right? Now, this is just a question, right? Now, we know Thomas Jefferson had like several black mistresses, right?
Correct.
I'm just asking this. I'm posing the question. I'm playing devil's advocate here. On that account, was Thomas Jefferson not a patriot and a white nationalist, even though he was banging some black chick?
Huge white nationalist.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking the question. Like I'm not because there are some people who say it's impossible for you to be a black nationalist and to have a woman from another ethnicity.
Ask them how is that possible when some of these brothers who were black nationalists have some of these white women working 10 times harder to push forth the black nationalist agenda and press their sons. Ever see some of these biracial boys growing up and knowing more about black history than many others? Have you ever seen that in your life? I have.
We got another guest man in on the show,
More,
Randall.
brother. I got to get home and get this.
All right, hey, T Fitness, is always a pleasure to speak with you, man. Always.
Mike,
Randall, man.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. How are you?
I had to jump in when he said that. I disagree. I don't think it is really possible. Well, it's incompatible with any black nationalist philosophy to support interracial marriage. Yes, there are lots of black men who marry white men who have contributed, but at the end of the day, there's levels to it.
Well, let me put it this way: if it is the case that you run to a relationship with someone from another race because you harbor feelings of inferiority in relation to this other race, or you're running towards another group of people because you have disdain for your own, then one could argue, okay, you could probably make the logical connection and say, well, this person to me is not actually someone who's looking out for the best interests of black folks. He's a self-loathing, person who basically is running away from black culture and not towards it. I understand that, right? But I mean, and that's your answer. So it's your answer. I'm not gonna try to convince you otherwise. It's just what you think.
I'm open to hearing. I guess the reason. An analogy I'd put is, I would never support, just for instance, a black political party. I would never support the leader of that being married to a white woman.
So you wouldn't, but you do know that Frederick Douglass was married to a white woman, right?
I've heard the Dr. Umar. He had all his children by a black woman, and in his late age, he was married to a white woman for the last like 5 years of his life or something. So there's that.
But okay,
it is a contradiction.
Let me put it this way. Okay, so like people, we only think in liberal terms, right? Western liberal democracy and all of this kind of stuff, and we always think from a deficit. Like we have ideas about what we're supposed to be doing in the world related to lack.
So okay,
wait a minute before I go there, right? But let's say, for example, black men were like Blackistan. We had a Blackistan somewhere, right?
Okay.
Like what they call Wakanda, right? Would it not be our job as men to go throughout the earth and to plant seeds wherever the fuck we saw fit?
And don't bring those seeds back. Leave them where they are.
I mean, I'm just saying. This is what. But look, if men go out,
I guess I got
and procure.
I can give you I guess another analogy or another history here. So the Portuguese had a completely different outlook on what their culture viewed interracial marriage. If you look at Brazil, they had a policy to where they brought people in to purposely breed out the native population. That was their entire political ideology. And more or less they were successful. And so you can have that point of view of if you are a supremacist, your job is to nullify the other races either through warfare or through conquest. That you, because the population back in the homeland is always greater, so they can keep importing more and more in. So there is that outlook. I don't think in the U.S. we have that luxury. We
Yeah,
are
yeah. I
we
was
don't
about to say
control.
that too, though, because when you look at Brazil, man, it has the largest black population, man, in the Americas. I mean, they have a larger black population than we do in the
So
United States.
but the way they define black is entirely different. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
so
they might define. Look. We doing a lot of hair splitting about this. I get the point. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. The only thing I just offered was, like a question. Say for example, typically what men do is if they conquer a territory, they plant their seeds in the women there, dog, and then they turn it just like they did us, bro. You know what I'm saying? And then they proselytize to the women, and then they educate the children
I guess one thing
and indoctrinate the children, bro. Like I'm not trying to be ignorant when I say this.
one
Like
thing
it's not like now if you run away from a black woman and say, well, I don't like you because you're a black woman. Now, if you say that I don't like you because I don't like the way you move, I don't like the way you navigate politics within the context of American culture. Because look, we black men here, man, we have a problem with the way relationships are working now contemporarily. I mean, and I'm pretty sure white guys are feeling the sting of this too. But I mean, think about it, bro. You got black men right now in the United States of America who love black, who think black women are attractive, but who are like of the mind state that look, how can I even have a partnership with a person that feels like they supposed to run a dude? They the boss of you. It's gotten to the point where, these women are saying they don't want men to boss over them, but they have no problem bossing over guys.
I guess I'm married, so but I do when I was dating before I was married, I do kind of see that. I did kind of feel that. Luckily, I did find someone who understands, male female dynamics in a more true sense, I guess.
Because if I look, first of all, if you're a black man, you're dealing with the brunt of racial animus in the context of the United States. Like some people like to explain it away and say, well, it doesn't exist anymore. I don't think Clarence Thomas would say it doesn't exist anymore at all. You understand what I'm saying? But he's saying you got to deal with it. Okay.
I read I read that book, and I guess what I took away from it, he's very pessimistic on, white people aren't going to give us anything, and anything they do, in quotes, give us, really they have ulterior motives to it, trying to breed dependency and trying to neutralize us, and they're going to do this at every step. And so, we need to, I guess, we were at our best immediately post emancipation when we set up our own institutions. HBCUs, I think, are one of the greatest things that we created. But the political group that set those up were more or less purged.
Well, I mean, that's why I showed the videos and I'm having the conversations. But I mean, a lot of people like to be able to put their fingers on what black people are, what they're not, what their views should, what they shouldn't be. All I know is this, man. Like a lot of black men would prefer to have black women as partners. I mean, I come from an era. I was born in the 70s. I was raised in the 80s and 90s. I came to age as a man, a young adult in the 90s, the early 90s. And, at that time, I mean, all of the stuff out here existed, but it wasn't propagandized and marketed in the way that it is now. And I expected that I would grow up and have a normal family, according to the Huxtables idea of it. Or, Family Matters, or even if good times, they still were married, man.
Are there
even in the projects?
Are there any more shows like that anymore?
I mean, you here and there, but I mean, dude, I've been watching TV recently, man. Every show I see, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, whether it's adventure, heroes, whether it's crime and drama, there's a gay couple in it, bro. Everywhere, man. Look, I just got through seeing something called A Discovery of Witches. I thought it was a good show. It was put together by people in Europe about vampires and demons and witches and, just it's all about, like some fantasy story and how this one witch is going to eventually figure out what the cause of the degradation of the creatures are or whatever. So, but it was well put together in terms of artisticness. But I mean, the themes, it's like nowadays, you have to throw in some queer stuff. Like it has to go there. And it's almost as if it's like a directive from the government that it has to be there.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, we don't really run our own shows. I mean, I think the
But all I'm saying is this, man. Before we get off on too far of a tangent, all I'm saying is if you got to come home and combat your partner, somebody supposed to be your partner now, you constantly in a struggle with your partner about the dynamics of what's supposed to go on in the context of the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would that be? Why would that relationship? Why would that relationship be a formative part of who you are? And why would you consider it to be an asset as opposed to a liability? I mean, greater men have lost a lot in the context of just partnering up with someone that they say, they're going to live a life together with. Like, why even take the risk in contemporary times? Like, why? Because there's nothing to your advantage in it.
Yeah, we've lost that culture war. I mean, we've allowed white people to define what the black family should be like. We don't have. I brought up shows because it's important. It's a way of propaganda, or I call it propaganda, but you have to define, what is socially acceptable behavior, et cetera, and we don't do that. Everything that's showed on our TV is shown by white people, and so we have no real say of what is being instilled in our children.
But here's the funny thing about it. The first people who were so-called homophobic and against sexual liberation were white people. But then all of a sudden now it's become the new thing. And the reason I call it the politics of fucking, okay? And the reason I think that it's popular as it is because there's no cost in it. There's no investment in it. Like, you don't have to do anything in order to resolve the injustices related to, the politics of gayness or sexuality or gender. You don't have to do anything about it other than give them a job. But if
they're fundamentally weak groups because, what's the most they could win? If black people win, we could take a lot because, we are a complete group. Just women can't really do anything serious. Just gay people can't do anything real serious. They're politically, it's a political dead end there. So once you give them rights, what can they do?
Yeah, so at the present moment, I think that, the politics of fucking has become the paramount politics in the black community, precisely because white feminists have made it, the thing to do within the context of the academy. I've read papers on this, man, on my channel before to kind of go into this. But there's no, if you deal with justice related to black folks, then you got to start talking about institutional inclusion in a substantive way. Why do that? Like, all you got to do is look towards this other group, like the trans people. Like, you don't have to give them anything. You don't have to write them into anything. I'm not trying to be ignorant by saying that. I'm not trying to hate on them people. But, the only thing I don't like about how they move is that they try to say that certain other groups are like regressive and are causing harm to them. It's like the demonization of other groups within their own ethnic or racial group. And like black men, like heterosexual black men are transphobic. They're killing us, they're killing black trans women.
It's like with J.K. Rowling when they called her a TERF and they tried to weaponize the feminists against the trans people. And sort of, that takes heat off them because now two groups they don't like are fight each other. And it's just a way to,
I think Ishmael Reed said it best, man. Like, None of these groups really like each other anyway. Like when you start creating in groups and out groups, what you do is you demonize the other group. And I mean, we fall prey to it too. I mean, just like any other group of people can. It can happen within a group, right? Where people start to have in groups and out groups, and then they, objectify the out group, and then that enables you to, develop some sort of pathological thinking related to the person in the out group, and then it justifies your ability to engage in violence, disrespect, degradation, exclusion, and the like. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it happens with everybody. But the only thing I don't like the way they move is they act like they don't have the propensity to move like that themselves. Like, that's the only issue that I have with them. Like, dude, the same shit that you say you lament and excuse so much, you involved in the same shit. You're involved in the same practices you deplore. And you can't have it both ways. You can't be a pot calling the kettle black. You engage in the same kind of shit that everybody else is. But I mean, there are intricacies to what I'm talking about. Insane Optimist, what's good with you, brother? Thank you for joining the cast, man. Can you hear me, Insane Optimist?
Yes.
Would you like to make some comments and make a statement?
Absolutely. You touched on a lot of things that are definitely a new trend and a new political agenda, so to speak, coming largely, I feel, from the feminist left. I was just typing into the chat this whole notion of black men gay bashing. That is a lie. There's been no wide.
I think we lost you, bro. You still there?
I'm back. My phone went out on me. But there's been no widespread gay bashing commensurate with what was going on around the time in the late 90s in New York City, when you just had these roving gangs of what they call bridge and tunnel people, which is usually young white kids, maybe Italian or Irish. They come into the city, and there was a lot of that going on right around the time that the whole Buju Banton fiasco went on about him making some statements. But those weren't black kids doing that. And I mean, even in the 70s, when I was growing up, even in small towns, all these southern small towns, they always had the gay hairdresser or the gay clothing merchant. Nobody was bashing those people. So that's just an outright lie.
Yeah, I've been looking for it. Like they might not have been at the front of the bus. You know what I'm saying? Like even you had like Bayard Rustin. You know what I'm saying? You had James Baldwin. No, black men were not like, what is that faggot doing talking about black politics?
Right,
I mean, you didn't see that, bro. Like I'm just saying, I didn't see it. Now did we say like some pretty homophobic things amongst ourselves, laughing, saying gay jokes? Yes, I can admit that. I'm man enough to say, okay, I done that. Okay. So, but like I've never gone out and punched a gay person just on account that they were gay, or it was like, you can't be around me. Like if you come close to me, I'm gonna beat your ass because you gay or something like that. Like I've never experienced it. None of my friends did it. I've never seen it.
Absolutely.
I personally have never seen that, bro. I've never seen it. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, like black people don't have the capacity to do it, because I done been jumped by black people before. Okay? I've been attacked by black people in the South as well as the North. If you want to get the grand scope of it. I'm just saying, like, okay, but damn. I mean, just making us out to be these evil, demonic, creatures who want to devour and oppress and dominate. Man, it's like, it's ridiculous, man. But I mean, I think that people do this because they want to be tokens. They want to, have their opportunity to get the gimmies, the goodies, and the grab'ems that, the liberal left is offering. Like it's hard to move past or to get past the tokenism. It is. Master said, damn, what a hell of a name. Bro, I got a bot going. I can't, I'm not even regulating or controlling that. Sorry if your comment got deleted, bro. Apologize. But anyway, man, if there's nobody else who has anything to say, man, okay, Insane Optimist is back. I'm going to indulge him for a few moments more. Sorry about you pulling out there, brother.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. So is there anything, I'm about to start wrapping this up.
Well, you were talking about this notion of being able to having envisioned yourself married with a beautiful black woman and enjoying life, somewhat like the Good Times or the Huxtables, or just that picket fence lifestyle, and we all know that doesn't exist in any race, but trying to even aspire to that as a black man dealing with the average. There are many exceptions, but they are few and far between. But just dealing with the average woman, man, it's real hard, and it's sad because you're constantly, I find myself just at a point where I'm almost, for lack of a better descriptive term, just almost kind of living like a monk. And this is nothing new. I saw this. I'm 60 years old. I came to that conclusion in the late 80s, early 90s in Manhattan. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something in the water. But I just came to the conclusion that black men were in this by themselves, and those were my observations early on. I came to the same conclusion that's being widely embraced by a lot of black men in the quote unquote manosphere now. We're out here by ourselves, man. You try to be loyal, but it's like you're saying, the average woman, the average black woman you run into feels like she has to rule you. There's no shared or no equality in the relationship, and a lot of bitterness. So that's what I have to say about relationships and black men dealing with black women. It's sad, but it's a harsh, cold reality. That's about it, brother.
Well, hey, man, I appreciate your comments, man, and thank you for coming by, bro. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace. Well, anyway, man, I'm going to wrap this up. The only thing I wanted to draw out or to make explicit is that black nationalism is not necessarily or inherently mutually exclusive with black conservatism. In fact, I mean, if you look at much of what was being said at the Black National Convention by, Jesse Jackson and other folks, there it's all about like self-determination, self-realization, voting empowerment, not democratic in terms of the Democratic Party, but like just, self-rule, self-governance, self-regulation, self-confidence, self-esteem, collective, political, strategy, making and developing. And, but it fell flat on its face. It fell, So I'm so, I feel bad about it, man. It's like, damn, there was a promise, and then all of a sudden, damn, it just is what it is, man. And it's a lot of brothers, man. The bad part of it is that, like black men who resign themselves to this monk lifestyle, it basically is like, well, what's your legacy? What's the legacy you leave behind? And even if you have children, you know what I'm saying? If you go through the situations with like baby mamas and shit like that, I mean, like, what's your legacy? What is the legacy? You don't get to pass over anything to your children. First of all, you're trying to catch up every 5 years or so dealing with a lady because you get set back dealing with the foolishness. They have no problem going to the government, man, in order to arbitrate any disputes that they have with you in the context of the relationship they had with you. But if you opt not to fuck with them, then you have no progeny at all. You have nothing to pass, nothing that's a legacy at all. So what do you do? Like, I mean, it's a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose. Chaos, are you there, bro?
Yeah, I'm here. I was hoping that you give me a,
Yeah, go ahead, man. What's happening with you, brother, man? How you doing, man?
Yes. So Mr. Thomas was a black nationalist, surprisingly. Interesting. Interesting. I've been always hearing the word that this man was a quote unquote coon, etc., which possibly he could be. But I don't really look into too much detail of the brother. I know is that the time when he was alive or been around, that he served some purpose to the black existence here in America, and that's something we could examine. I think today's Negro, Green Gorilla, is not in no shape or form willing to do anything now. So they like to criticize the ones that came before us, and I think that's wrong. To be honest with you.
I mean, it's easy to, like I do the same thing. I fall prey to the same shortcoming. I look back and then I say certain things about people and the mistakes that they made. But I mean, nobody's perfect, man. And, we just, all we can do is the best we can do. But I mean, all I can say is, I love to study black politics, man. I love to study black folks. And, I love to, be contrary or basically expose things that people wouldn't normally think of because they've been, I guess for a better lack of terms, they got blinders on. It's like they think that certain people are a certain kind of way or that in a geographical location or form a political party or whatever. But I mean, referencing coons, like liberals can be coons too, bro. Like black liberals can be some coons, bro. Black conservatives can be coons. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I just don't, I don't get what people don't get about that. But, at the end of the day, man, it's just, I just look at life, man, for black men. And I wonder, or for men in general, like, what happens if you have no children? Okay, you get to be stress-free, or whatever. You don't have to deal with the issues, but you don't get to reproduce and you don't get to have a family of your own. You don't get to see your children grow and to cultivate a young mind and to have, somebody depend upon you to be able to gain insight about how to navigate through the world. It's a prime directive of you as a biological organism to be fruitful and multiply.
One question,
but the saddest part of it is, man. Look, and let me just say this: I can respect a whore who announces and discloses and lets you know I am a whore. I am not going to be loyal to you. I am not going to, be in a long-term relationship. I am somebody who wants things my way or no way. Like if people come up and they tell you, like, don't give the men the representative. Like, and men, I'm pretty sure it could go the other way as well, right? But my problem with men or women is, look, who engage in these so-called partnerships, these relationships, if you're going to make an oath to another individual, just live up to your fucking oath. It's just that simple, man. This shit ain't like, it's not rocket science. Live up to the agreements you make. That's, as a human being, a rational creature, you have the ability to engage in contracts with other people. A relationship, especially if you get married to somebody, is a fucking contract. But why enter into a contract when it's so easy for somebody else to renege out of and then to take your assets? And then Leanne Bentley makes a good point here, though. Like, and that's the issue. Like right now, it is so fucked up, man. Like my uncle, he died alone. He died by himself. He wasn't surrounded by his kids.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you know, it's a rough experience that men are having. Like that would be unheard of, man. Like in some cultures, man, like you got people like dying by themselves in old folks' homes and shit like that. Like it's inhumane to be honest about it.
That in Japan, where a lot of people in Japan die like alone, like yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And my uncle was, you know, he lived in New Orleans. He died in New Orleans. He wasn't surrounded by all his kids. That's fucked up. I saw my mother take her last breath. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, you know, I wouldn't let I wasn't gonna let her die alone, bro. But nowadays, man, people are so self-centered, they're so narcissistic, man. It's all about them and nobody else. Nobody gives a fuck about anybody else anymore, man. You know what I'm saying? And all I can say, I can respect a whore who announces, I am a whore. I'm into polyamory. I don't believe in being serious. Let's have a fling. Let's fuck. Okay, cool. Now I know how to put you in the proper perspective. But these people are presenting situations like, I want a long-term relationship. I want a husband and all of this shit. No, you don't. Stop lying. Stop being opportunist. Stop using the institutional structure as a game, a come up, a bag. Stop using people, man. But men do the same shit. I'm not saying that, you know, men don't have the capacity to use people. But this game as it stands, man, it's too much that can go wrong. It's a lot that can go wrong. And there's no commitment, no fidelity, no loyalty. So a lot of men are opting out. They're like, fuck, why go through that? Now it works for some people. But I mean, you know, hey, bro, it's rough, man. It's rough out here, bro. You know what I'm saying? But don't let it be. You can either team up and get through it together, or, you know, go individual. But don't drag people into situations just so you can get some shit out of it. You know what I'm saying? That's bad faith acting. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I mean, you know, a lot of women in this culture have been taught to act on bad faith and taught that, you know, my engagement in a relationship is something in which I ain't supposed to receive a lion's share of adoration and love and all of this. Like, what do you have to give? And you know, men are not even knowing, like today, like what is a woman supposed to give? They don't even, like, a woman is really actually of the mind state that, like, my man is going to provide every little fantasy that I've had since a child. He's going to meet all these fantastic conditions. Like, come on, man. This is ridiculous, bro. But look, I don't want to change this into a 2-hour show when it doesn't have to be. Only thing I want to draw out is that, you know, like, Clarence Thomas was a black nationalist, yes. And it informs some of his, you know, jurisprudence. That's all I'm saying. And some of his social and political ideals. That's it. You know, and because some people want to call black nationalists hoteps or commie liberals and shit like that. But like I said before, and I'm going to leave again with this statement. Most of the people who developed the commie liberal organizations that people like the black conservatives like to eschew and like to deride and debunk, or, you know, like to say, or, you know, like the bane of black existence and causing all these black problems. They were Southerners, dog. They wasn't commie liberal Northerners. They weren't. They were people like Bobby Seale from Liberty, Texas, Huey P. Newton from Monroe, Louisiana, Eldridge Cleaver from Wabaseka, Arkansas, Jesse Jackson, even though he did flip and he changed into an integrationist and an assimilationist, but I mean, he's from Greenville, South Carolina, dog. These people are not just liberal lefties from the North, dog. It's important to understand that. So anyway, man, having said all that, man, peace to y'all, blessings, man. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, you know, sorry. If you didn't enjoy it, I'm sorry, man. I'll try to do better next time. But yo, peace to the nation, man. What time is it? You know what they say. You know, back in the day, you know, like you heard what you heard. What time is it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it ain't nation time no more. It's what they say is SYSBM.
Yeah.
They say it's red pill time, or get your own bag time. Look, I don't fit into any easily established category, but at the end of the day, I think it was just a failed opportunity for us, to get our collective political shit together. But anyway, man, I'm about to get up out of here, brother.
Okay. My
I'll holler at y'all. I'm gonna holler. What I'm gonna do the next time,
okay.
I think, is I'm gonna talk about why in every TV show do you have to see some sexual shit? Like, I mean, that's out of the norm.
I can't wait for that. That's to be something we should examine, And my final question before you end this: any interesting plans for the so-called Black History Month?
Nah, bro, I ain't. I haven't personally. What I might do is go over some Raun Efra Amen. If you want to talk about some Hotep shit, that's where it is. But I'll probably go over the metaphysical system of Raun Efra Amen. I like his spiritual account of ancient Kemetic culture. I think it's dope. Now, whether it's actually historically accurate, that's a whole nother subject altogether. But I do like it though. I think it's beautifully put together. I like it, and I think it makes sense. So but I'll probably talk about that during Black History Month.
All right, cool. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Peace, chaos, man. Peace. All right, y'all, man. I was about to get up out this thing 15 minutes ago, man, but now I'm out of it now. Whether you're conservative or liberal, man, whether you rich or poor, whether you got a business or you work for somebody else, man. Peace, good tidings to y'all this evening, man. I'll holler at y'all on the next go round, man. Peace.